has killed 13 people in Tel Aviv. Tim Hewitt reports from there.
In Israel today, the children wore fancy dress for a holiday weekend. But in the Middle East, such occasions are no protection against terror. The bomb that threatened the peace process was packed with nails and ball bearings. It exploded on the front patio of a restaurant in a quiet Tel Aviv suburb and caused panic. The suicide bomber walked between crowded tables with 2 suitcases. As a waiter approached, he detonated the device. Police who searched the area identified him as a member of the extremist Hamas group. They were calling for more such attacks in demonstrations being held as the bomb went off. The object of Hamas anger, a controversial Jewish settlement in Arab East Jerusalem.
I think that Israel pushed us to do this reaction.
As the injured arrived at hospital, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat condemned the attack, but was himself angrily blamed by the Israelis for failing to control the militants.
The peace process is threatened not by the periodic misunderstandings, disagreements, or impasses. It is threatened by the mentality that says that if we have a disagreement with someone, we can go and blow them up.
It had seemed that the Israeli and the Palestinian authorities might have been able to keep a lid on the tension that's been building here all week. But this bomb in Tel Aviv now threatens to change all that. The day began with skirmishes on the Jerusalem hill known as Har Homa, where the Israelis are clearing the ground for the settlement at the heart of the current crisis. Palestinian leaders here want peaceful protests and deplore the Tel Aviv bomb.
I would like to say how painful we are from inside our hearts about what happened in Tel Aviv.
The challenge for both sides now is containing the rage of their extremists. These scenes from the West Bank were a sharp reminder of how easily violence can erupt here. The peace process is not dead tonight, but it is once again under assault. Tim Hewitt, News at 10, Jerusalem.
A High Court judge imprisoned in Northern Ireland, where he'd served a sentence for child sex offences. Father Brendan Smith, who is 71, appeared before a magistrate and was later put on a plane to the Irish Republic, where he faces another 74 charges. They relate to girls and boys between 1967 and 1993. Here's our island correspondent, John Irvine.
Father Brendan Smith was driven from prison to court for his extradition hearing. The paedophile priest, who today completed his sentence for abuses in Northern Ireland, will now be prosecuted in the south as well. During the brief court hearing, Father Brendan Smith waived his right to challenge the extradition request. It means he will now be sent to the Irish Republic, where he will face more than 70 charges of sexually abusing children over a 20-year period. The request to return Father Smith to the south was granted in just 7 minutes. That contrasts with the events of 3 years ago, when it took the Irish authorities 7 months to agree to extradite the priest to Northern Ireland, where the investigation into his activities began. In Dublin, that 7-month delay led to a scandal and eventually to the collapse of the last coalition government.
You cannot win them all. You win some and you lose some.
The then Prime Minister Albert Reynolds lost his job. Father Smith's abuse of children began in the 60s. He now says he will cooperate with Irish detectives, who today thanked their RUC counterparts before flying the priest south to Dublin and a court appearance there tonight. John Irvine, News at 10, Northern Ireland.
The Reverend Wilbert Audrey, who created Thomas the Tank Engine and delighted generations of children across the world, died today at the age of 85. Mr. Audrey wrote the first story about the Little Blue Engine in 1943, and the character grew into a multi-million-pound industry. Helen Wright reports.
The Reverend Audrey's books have entranced children for over 50 years.
Thomas seethed impatiently.
And when he was brought to life on TV by the voice of Ringo Starr, Thomas the Tank Engine won a whole new young audience. But the stories were originally written for just one little boy. When his son had measles, Wilbert Awdry entertained him with tales of the railway, stories, he said, for the whole family.
You're not really merely writing for children. You're writing for the unfortunate people who've got to read the stories over and over and over again.
The stories were also a runaway financial success. The books, toys and videos made millions, much to the Reverend's surprise.
He never really understood why people made so much fuss about these books, and I think he couldn't comprehend the fact that they sold over 50 million copies worldwide in many different languages.
But the character that's delighted millions of children will not die with the Reverend Awdry. His son plans to continue writing stories about Thomas's adventures. Helen Wright, News at 10, Central London.
A new report says that 1 in 20 of experts failed to coax it back to sea. It refused to swim under road and rail bridges. Experts think it was scared of the traffic noise. And the Queen unveiled a controversial likeness of herself in Mansfield today. Originally, it showed a broad grin, but the sculptor was told that went against customary protocol and changed it to a more subdued smile. Her Majesty apparently was pleased with the end result. For tonight's special report, we look to the heavens and to the Hale-Bopp comet, the brightest in the Northern Hemisphere for nearly 100 years. It will come closest to Earth, a mere 123 million miles, tomorrow, and will be at its hottest and brightest in about 10 days. Our science editor Lawrence McGinty reports on what Hale-Bopp tells us.
Astronomers around the world are turning their telescopes to the northern skies to observe the biggest, brightest and most active comet to visit the solar system in our lifetime, Comet Hale-Bopp. It was discovered by 2 Americans only 2 years ago, and it will be the most minutely studied comet ever, even more than Halley's 11 years ago.
As many different kinds of telescopes around the world are trained on Comet Hale-Bopp, astronomers are making discoveries not just about this comet, but about comets in general.
For example, Hale-Bopp is rotating. These images show ripples around the comet, caused by gas and dust swirling round as they're emitted by the comet's nucleus.
The dust itself is emitted in jets of material, and the nucleus is rotating as well. So as it rotates, these jets get wound around in this very prominent spiral pattern.
Astronomers think Hale-Bopp is rotating because those jets spew out gas and dust from its icy nucleus, 25 miles across, as the sun boils off the frozen material. It's a bit like a giant Catherine wheel. At Armagh Observatory in Northern Ireland, Mark Bailey has calculated that Hale-Bopp was last seen from Earth 4,500 years ago, when the Egyptians were building the pyramids.
Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, the comet will continue to get brighter, and it's already a very prominent object in the northwestern sky and high in the northeast before dawn, northwest after sunset, of course. And that's the most convenient time to view the comet. So it's well worth going to a dark site with a view towards the northwestern horizon and just admiring this fine spectacle.
Comets come from far outside the solar system. Hale-Bopp is approaching from under the plane of the planets. Tomorrow it passes closest to Earth, a mere 123 million miles away, and the 1st of April sees its closest approach to the Sun, after which it swings away. But already scientists have made important discoveries. By analysing light from the comet and therefore its chemical composition, they know it formed at the same time as the Earth, 4.5 billion years ago.
We can say very conclusively now that at least Comet Hale-Bopp formed from the same material as the rest of our solar system, and therefore it offers us a window back in time to the material from which the Earth was formed.
Tonight, astronomers in London open their domes to give visitors a glimpse of that frozen time capsule from when the Earth began.
This is the first and only chance we'll get to see it, because it's another 2,000 years, I think, before it occurs again, so it's a chance in a lifetime.
You can see all the spirals around it. I was expecting just to see a ball with the tail, really.
A wonder to the casual observer, a rich source for the scientists. It won't be back again for 2,000 years. Lawrence McGinty, News at 10.
The Rangers and England football